The Red Lady of Huntingdon College. I never believed in ghosts. Not until I encountered the Red Lady of Huntingdon College. My name is Alex, and this is my story. It all started when I transferred to Huntingdon College in Montgomery, Alabama. The campus was beautiful with its historic buildings and sprawling lawns, but there was one building that stood out, Pratt Hall. It was an old Gothic-style dormitory that had been closed for years. Rumor had it that the building was haunted by the spirit of a young woman named Martha, who had died tragically many years ago. I didn't pay much attention to the stories at first. I was too busy settling into my new life, making friends, and keeping up with my studies. But then strange things started happening. It began with small, inexplicable events. My belongings would go missing, only to turn up in odd places. I would hear footsteps in the hallway outside my room late at night, even though I knew I was alone. One night, as I was studying for an exam, I heard a soft, eerie humming coming from the hallway. I opened my door and peered out, but there was no one there. The humming continued, growing louder and more insistent. It seemed to be coming from the direction of Pratt Hall. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to investigate. I grabbed my flashlight and made my way to the old dormitory. The building loomed ominously in the moonlight, its windows dark and empty. I pushed open the creaky front door and stepped inside. The air was cold and musty, and the floorboards creaked under my feet. I made my way down the dark, narrow hallway, following the sound of the humming. It led me to a room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint red glow emanated from within. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was empty, except for a single old-fashioned bed. The walls were covered in red wallpaper, and the bed was draped in a red quilt. As I approached the bed, the humming stopped, and the room fell silent. Suddenly, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I spun around, but there was no one there. My heart pounded in my chest as I backed away from the bed. Just as I reached the door, I saw her, the Red Lady. She stood in the corner of the room, her eyes glowing with an eerie red light. She wore a long red dress, and her hair was a tangled mess. I froze, unable to move or speak. She glided towards me, her eyes never leaving mine. As she reached out her hand, I felt a wave of cold wash over me. I stumbled backwards, tripping over my own feet and falling to the floor. When I looked up, she was gone. The room was empty once again, and the red glow had disappeared. I scrambled to my feet and ran out of the building, not stopping until I was safely back in my own dorm room. I didn't sleep at all that night. The image of the Red Lady haunted my dreams, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was watching me. The next day, I told my friends what had happened. They were skeptical at first, but when I showed them the red marks on my shoulder where she had touched me, they began to believe. We decided to do some research on the history of Pratt Hall and the Red Lady. We discovered that Martha had been a student at Huntingdon College in the early 1900s. She was a shy, introverted girl who had trouble making friends. She became obsessed with the color red, decorating her room entirely in red and wearing red clothing. One night, Martha was found dead in her room, an apparent suicide. But some believed that she had been driven to her death by the cruel treatment of her classmates. Her spirit was said to haunt Pratt Hall, seeking revenge on those who had wronged her. As we delved deeper into the story, we realized that the Red Lady's appearances were not random. She seemed to be drawn to those who were lonely or unhappy, just as she had been in life. We decided to hold a seance in Pratt Hall, hoping to communicate with her and put her spirit to rest. We gathered in my dorm room that evening, armed with candles, a Ouija board, and a sense of trepidation. The air was thick with anticipation as we made our way to Pratt Hall. The old building seemed even more foreboding in the darkness, its windows like empty eyes staring down at us. We set up our seance in the same room where I had seen the Red Lady. The red wallpaper and quilt seemed to glow eerily in the candlelight. We sat in a circle around the Ouija board, our hands lightly touching the planchette. Is there anyone here with us? I asked, my voice trembling slightly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the planchette began to move, slowly spelling out a single word. Yes. Are you Martha? One of my friends asked. Again, the planchette moved. Yes. Why are you here? I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. The planchette moved more quickly this time, spelling out, lonely. A chill ran down my spine. What can we do to help you? I asked. The planchette paused, then spelled out, friends. We looked at each other, unsure of what to do next. Martha, we want to be your friends, I said softly. We want to help you find peace. Suddenly, the candles flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. We heard a soft, mournful wail, and the temperature dropped sharply. I felt a cold hand brush against my cheek, and I shivered. Please, Martha, I whispered. Let us help you. The wailing grew louder, and the red glow returned, filling the room with an eerie light. We saw her then, standing in the corner, her eyes filled with sadness. She reached out her hand, and I felt a strange compulsion to take it. As I touched her hand, a wave of emotions washed over me. Loneliness, despair, and a deep longing for connection. I understood then that Martha had been trapped in this place, unable to move on because she had never known true friendship. We're here for you, Martha, I said, tears streaming down my face. You don't have to be alone anymore. The red glow intensified, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of a smile on her face. Then she began to fade, the light dimming until it was gone completely. The room was silent once more, and the oppressive cold lifted. We sat in stunned silence for a moment, then slowly began to pack up our things. As we left Pratt Hall, I felt a sense of relief and closure. I knew that Martha had finally found some measure of peace. In the days that followed, the strange occurrences stopped. My belongings stayed where I left them, and the eerie humming was gone. I felt a sense of calm that I hadn't known since arriving at Huntingdon College. But sometimes, late at night, I would catch a glimpse of red out of the corner of my eye, or hear a soft humming in the distance. And I would smile, knowing that Martha was still there, watching over us, no longer alone.